this is not a teaching of convenience. And what I mean by that is, it's not that, oh, you know, I'm spiritual as long as everything is going the way I want it to. I'm spiritual as long as I'm in a good mood and happy, you know. It's not like that. It's at all times. As a matter of fact, we're getting a little ahead to the throat, but what I want to tell you is, even and most especially the hardest moments, the most challenging, the most uncomfortable, even the most painful, are the most important. And even and especially those can be met with love and gratitude when your heart is open. So even those, especially those, can be met with compassion and, again, vulnerability, honesty, allowing yourself to remain vulnerable as we get into the throat, connect to the truth, come from love and feel safe to say, from compassion, from love. So can you navigate this terrain with your heart open?
Would you say that the other chakras, in a sense, well, they don't make sense unless you have the heart, so they kind of flow down and up from the center out like that? Because what's the point of all those others if it's not embodied in the sense of compassion?
Word. Amen. What's the point of all the others?
Right. Or even the higher ones, because they all come back here.
To the heart. So, you know, hence we commonly use the phrase and hear the phrase heart-centered. And indeed, that's as it should be in the highest form.
For humans, anyway, for this form, I think that the mechanics of being, if we can call chakras that, the mechanics of being.
Yeah, I'm making some notes because I love where we're going with this. How about, can we get to throat?
Yeah, let's keep going. Yes, of course.
Okay, listen, this throat chakra is where these, it's my favorite place to give these examples of what I call diagnostics. So let's just concentrate for a moment on the throat chakra. And I know that it's commonly known and held and accepted that the throat chakra represents maybe the way that you express, interact with the world, the interface of the way that you communicate, what you do communicate, what you don't communicate. And what I have expressed to you in some of the other talks, I can't even remember which one it could have been, because this is the best place for it. Now you can hear me in the context of this conversation. So look at, one thing that I'm going to call, with respect to the throat chakra, one thing that I'm going to relate to it is what I call spiritual integrity. And now we can start to look at behavioral patterns and maybe behavioral pathologies or tendencies, or your relationship with yourself in the way of being able to express and communicate. So how often do you see that somebody's thoughts, words, and actions are not in sync? So in other words, think of how common it is that you think one thing, but you say something else. Or you say one thing, but you do something else. Or most often, you feel something that you don't say. And now we get really into relationships where something is kind of a fixture, a permanent fixture in a relationship, and it's not actually really okay with you, but you never really say anything about it. That's a throat chakra right there. Or how about this? You say one thing, but you do something else. You know what we could call that? Passive aggressive tendencies. right? Let's talk about, and now let's start mixing up chakras. Let's talk about throat, heart, and the sex center. How about that? Boom.
Well, they are all connected, right?
They're all connected. And when you start to look at them as qualities of being, you see how interconnected they are and how they all relate to each other.
And if one is off, you would saying it throws the other ones off as well?
It lights up across the board in all the different centers of our aspects of being, all of our qualities of being. So remember, when we were talking about the second chakra, I talked to you about intimacy, and I said to you, oh, I'm getting ahead of myself, because in a weird way, intimacy is really as much about the throat. Oh, isn't that interesting? Because it's commonly known that, you know, the throat and, in the case of a woman, the vagina are the two portals of expression, right? The two openings and outlets and inlets of the body. And so, of course, they are deeply related. They're deeply esoterically, intrinsically related. So look at, what did I want to say about this? Yeah, when I talked to you about before, I think it could have been just a private conversation of us as friends off the record, but it might have been in one of these recordings. I can't remember. But we talked about how the hope that, for example, the hope that I have for myself is the hope that I have for everyone. And it's a conversation about chakras. It's that we are all fully expressed on every level of being as in our most authentic truth.
Right.
And, oh, did you want to say?
All I wanted to say was I hope go back to that when you finish this point, that example of how the throat, the sex, the root, the power are all interconnected, and you know, they all light up.
Well, I think that this second half of my sentence is actually probably going to address that, and then we can expand upon it.